Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, the Honorable Marianne Vent, diplomats, friends, students, and members of the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy, we are very happy to begin today the Berlin Economic Forum 2016. You may know this is an annual event that we do every year, intentionally parallel to the ITB, which is the world's largest tourism expo in the world. The Institute for Cultural Diplomacy is of the belief that tourism, as well as this idea of nation branding, can actually be very important components if they're interwoven with cultural diplomacy. The topic that we've selected for this year in particular is the following: innovative nation branding, creative economies, sustainable tourism, and responsible foreign investments. I want to just explain to you in a few words why this topic, I think, is of significant importance, also especially now in the year 2016, for Germany, for Europe, as well as for the world. First of all, innovative nation branding. I know many of you here have actually studied this field in the framework of the studies here at the ICD. Nation branding is a term very often accredited to Simon Anholt, the British scholar who really coined this concept a number of years ago. I would say in a more classical definition, really at that time, nation branding was for the most part advertising. Croatia, for example, bought advertising space on CNN, and it worked. They did a lot of promotion for the country, for the beaches, and they had a big boom in tourism. Dubai is another example where really it was a very aggressive advertising campaign. All of us, I'm sure, have seen the ad campaigns for Dubai from then and even still now. Many have seen it also as a success story. There were also many failures. For example, Nigeria had a big 10-year campaign where they really tried to promote an image of Nigeria that was actually false, and it actually didn't match the reality in Nigeria, and it failed. Romania has had a number of different attempts, met with different levels of success. I was debating with some of our students actually earlier in the week. One campaign I was familiar with was about 6 or 7 years ago, where Romania essentially purchased a very expensive advertising company here in Germany, or they contracted them, Schultz and Friends, I believe it was, for also an ad campaign to change the way that Romania was presented abroad. And again, I think for a case like Romanian-German relations, it's hard to imagine how an ad campaign can really help to build trust or build understanding. So that's the first aspect I look forward to exploring with you over the coming days. What do we mean by nation branding? How is it being done today in the first part? And how should it be done? We'll have a chance to meet many ministers, many ambassadors, and diplomats from around the world dealing with this topic in the practice. So I think it should be a very good meeting between the theory and practice. So that's the one aspect, of course, that's of primary importance for this conference. Secondly, creative economies. This is an important issue we also struggle with a lot at the ICD. What does it mean to have a creative economy? Is a creative economy just a matter of having museums and preserving things from the past, as we look at the work of, let's say, UNESCO, or the impressive nature in Berlin? Berlin has 3 opera houses, many museums. Great, wonderful. On the other hand, how are we moving ahead? How are we actually fostering innovation in our economies? How are we fostering creativity? How do we actually inspire the young artists, the struggling artists, so to speak? There's plentiful in Berlin. How are we working with them to really move the German economy ahead? And how is that balanced? So I think that's a very important equation for us as well, to see how this aspect of creative economy is balanced with this aspect of preservation. And I think there we'll have a number of different insights as well. Sustainable tourism. As I said, tourism can be just a great thing where you go and you get drunk on a beach somewhere and have a vacation, or it can be an opportunity, of course, to get to know different cultures, different environments. So I think there's many different forms of tourism. This idea of sustainable tourism, what we're interested in as the Institute, is on the one hand, of course, in terms of the environment, sustainability in the full sense of the word, but also sustainability in terms of cultural diplomacy. Are we actually sustaining relations between countries? Can tourism do more than just entertain us or get our mind off of work for a week or two every year? Can it also help to build sustainable bridges between Thailand and Germany, going to my conversation with Mr. Vent this morning, between Germany and other parts of the world? And I think there is a big potential there. So I look forward to that. And then the final aspect, responsible foreign investments. One of the issues we really want to deal with this week is not only how tourism can assist an economy, but also investments. And I think, again, investments, a lot has to do, or a lot goes into investments aside from just the financial transaction. If we compare the Europeans and the Chinese, for example, they're very different strategies. The Europeans typically will go into an African country and say, okay, we'll invest, or we will, in some cases, even donate funds if you do A, B, C, and D. And there's usually almost always a list attached. We have an issue with this human rights problem, with this law, with this. The Chinese traditionally will go in and just do the investments and build the government buildings, build the highways, etc. No questions asked. You do your thing, you do our thing. Nobody talks about maybe the workers that we have brought here from China, maybe their prisoners, maybe there's human rights issues. We don't talk about the Chinese situation, we don't talk about your situation, and we move on. And for many African countries, as an example, that's really attractive. In the sense, this is infrastructure that helps, this works. So that's, again, something I want to explore with you this week. What does that mean, responsible foreign investments? What is our responsibility as an investor? What is our responsibility as a cultural diplomat to balance these two things? So I'm really excited this week to have a chance to try to explore and exchange insights with you on a variety of topics. And I really look forward to the balance of speakers. As you see, it's really international, also interdisciplinary. And so I think that will give us a chance, hopefully not to agree on everything. I hope we have a good debate, good discussion. I encourage you all, be active, ask questions, challenge the speakers in a respectful way to try to really, get to the bottom of these issues and to try to take from this conference what is important for you. Your responsibility in this conference is a big one in the sense half of the work the ICD did. We have the speakers and everyone here. The other half is up to you. What you do with these speakers, if you ask questions, if you don't, if you challenge them, if you don't, that's up to you. But I think you really have a chance also as participants to steer this conference in a lot of different directions. So I really do encourage you, stay awake, stay attentive, take notes, ask questions, be active participants, and you can really help to steer the way in which this conference goes the coming days. So I would now like to say a few words of introduction about someone I'm proud to consider a member also of the advisory board of the ICD. We've had a chance to collaborate at a number of levels and a number of opportunities throughout the years. And I think really the ICD has definitely benefited from those contributions in a number of ways, as have the participants as well as the students of the Institute. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Marian Wendt is a member of the German Parliament, initially born in Torgau. He's a German politician from the CDU party and a member of the German Parliament, the German Bundestag, Deutsche Bundestag. In April 2003, he joined the CDU. And in 2004, he became chairman of the Junge Union Nordsachsen, which is the sort of young leaders department of the CDU party. In 2007, he studied administrative landlord at the Fachhochschule, and in 2009, finished with a Master of Law. In 2010, he was a research assistant in the Bundestag office of Manfred Kolbe. In the general election of 2013, Marian Wendt won 45.6% of the primary vote, the direct mandate in the election district, Nordsachsen. He is a full member of the Interior Committee of the 18th Bundestag, and he's a substitute member of the NSA Investigation Committee. The topic that he's chosen today is the following: how digitization of government can sustainably avert and help with crises. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a very warm welcome for Mr. Marian Wendt.